Mabrika. Welcome, Soul Tribe, to this episode of Deep Soul Awakenings. Get ready to step into a place of visibility where your heart and intuition are your guides.
What's up, Soul Tribe? Welcome back to this week's episode of Deep Soul Awakenings with your host, Millie. I know that it has been like a month since I have posted an episode. Please forgive me. But I am actually following my own advice because I be doing too much. So I'm trying to limit the amount that I do because honestly, guys, it was way too much. And Spirit has this beautiful way of knocking you on your ass when you're doing too much and not resting and not listening. So I've been knocked on my ass enough times to know that I need to rest. So I have been doing that. But with that said, I decided today to bring one of my lovely, lovely, lovely Soul Tribe members here as a special guest. Her name is Kendra Valentine. She is from Blackbird Soul Healing. She is a member of the beautiful tribe that has become my family, and I absolutely adore her. So she is here today to talk energy with all of us. So, hi, Kendra, welcome.
Hi, honey. I'm laughing a little bit because when you talk about doing too much, just the other night, as I was practicing, I'm going to be doing a show. I sing, and I was doing some practice, and of course then I started to, like, in between songs I'm scrolling, I'm looking at this, I'm shooting an email, I'm just trying to multitask, right? And it felt like somebody literally smacked the phone out of my hand and it landed in my dog's bowl. And so, oh my God, it's in water now, and so for the rest of the night it had to be in rice, which it just made me laugh when you talked about that, how the ancestors in the universe will give a smackdown.
Yep,
It literally smacked my phone out of my hand,
every
and I
single time.
watched it in slow motion.
Yeah, that's because you're supposed to, because Spirit was like, yes, watch it fall.
Mhm. Oh, it
Get off the
slowed the
phone.
whole matrix down for me.
Ay,
I
ay,
was like,
ay.
no.
Please. And done. But it still worked after, though, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
beauty of it.
yeah, yeah. And I had to, I just had to be with that discomfort. And so, and there is the energy. There's the duality of our energy, right?
hmm
It's not always, doesn't always feel great in this landscape, and it's all perfect. And so instead of doing, I sat back and I put my feet in my little foot spa, and I did a little foot spa thing.
Yeah. So
So
clearly, self-care was needed.
for sure. And so I identify and I resonate with the doing too much right now.
Yeah.
Um, and with that, I'll say that for me, this eclipse that we just went through, and all the stuff and things that are going on in the celestial world,
Solar
you know,
flares and all the
oh,
craziness. It's been intense.
it's it's been so intense. And we were talking just a few minutes ago, you and I, about how I think I take for granted sometimes that everybody feels that, right?
hmm
Um, I just do. I feel, because I do believe that everyone has the ability to feel that if they choose to. Um, that said, that some people just haven't remembered that,
Yeah.
and so running around in this energy right now, I have to, for me, it's a practice of compassion for self first, and then I can then give for my overfill when somebody is like, no, what's going on? And I'm like, wait, what? You
You don't
know?
feel that? Your sleep is not crazy? You can sleep at night? Oh my God, that's insane.
Girl, I had a whole conversation last night with my ancestors. I don't know what time it was in the morning, but after I had tossed and turned for 500 years, okay, I just sat up in bed and I was like, can we just talk for a minute? Like, guys, seriously, legit, I am in human form and I am tired and I am half 100 and I would like to sleep.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, and so setting that energy boundary, I find in a loving way. And this is the relationship I have with my ancestors. Or I just have a direct conversation. Like,
Yeah.
guys, here's my why. I need to sleep. I know you want my attention, and I'll spend some time in meditation with you, but it's 3 a.m. and I'm tired.
Yep.
And,
You feel a
I
little
was
sleepy.
able
Please.
yeah,
Please.
just let me sleep. I just want to sleep. So yeah, so that's where I've been at here recently. And
Yeah.
so
So let's talk a little bit more about that. Because I do a 7-week class. It typically ends up being all beautiful, lovely women.
mm,
Because I believe that spirit is trying to tell me I'm supposed to do women's work, but of course I'm like,
mm,
no, everybody is welcome. And they're like, we're gonna give you women. Um, and one thing that I tell them all the time is, please set boundaries. Like,
mm,
it's okay to set boundaries in your energetic work, in your spiritual life, with your ancestors, with your guides, and everybody. Because, being able to set a boundary in spirit with your ancestors also kind of sets the stage for you to be able to set boundaries with your family and your friends and in this life that we're living. So I was just
for
wondering
sure.
if you can like just touch a little bit more on that.
Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. I have an expression, and it's not an original thought. I heard it somewhere, but it's good boundaries make great relationships, right? And it also, for me, it helps me unearth my own choice in the matter, right? That this connection that I have, with beyond the veil, with the mystery, right?
Yeah.
Is
What
is
is it
not
called?
something that is happening to me, right? I'm
Mhm.
in communion with it. And the circle, I'm always drawn to this idea, like the circle of the year, we'll call it, like in October, where it's a very earth, pagan or Wiccan tradition would say, oh, like the veil is the thinnest,
Yeah, Samhain.
and so so Samhain, and so you can, communicate. And my position on that has always been, but it's always a veil.
Yeah.
So,
It,
like y'all
yeah,
don't hear that?
no, they always talk to me. That's how I feel. Or like when I'm
Yeah.
up all of a sudden 2 o'clock in the morning and I wake up because I feel somebody staring at me and I'm like, guys, I love you, but it is 2 o'clock in the morning.
Hmm.
And when I'm sleeping, I don't want nobody staring at me. Whatever it is, tell me in the morning. I need to sleep. Time doesn't work the same way here. And my human body needs rest.
Amen. And it's so funny. You just said something that there are no mistakes, right? And
Hmm.
you just talked about like women's work and working with women specifically. And I too have had that dialogue in my head of like, no, I want everyone. I want to balance out like the both the masculine and feminine, and and all of the beautiful shades in between. And spirit has come to me and said, because I too have been being drawn more to women, which is wildly uncomfortable for me, because my narrative around that is, oh, I'm not being inclusive, I'm
Yeah.
not, there's something wrong, air quotes, with me, that I'm not being inclusive. And I've continued to go inside, and I've continued to, and spirit is finally like, listen,
This is what
I
you're going to do.
have told you 1400 times in every language known to me that this is what it is right now. And so as I sat with that into the murkiness, I guess, of the discomfort, I was reminded by spirit that, we all have masculine and feminine. We have divine masculine, divine feminine, and toxic masculine and toxic feminine.
Yeah.
So should I desire, or because I desire to help balance out the divine masculine and the divine feminine, my role that I'm being shown by spirit is, your role is to help the divine feminine unearth their own toxicity
Hmm.
within their masculine and their feminine. And that's how I am asking you, Kendra Valentine, to do service to the collective. And I'm like, oh, right.
I
And
get
then
it
that same
now.
conversation, spirit's like, it's about boundaries. Like, be within the boundaries of where you are bringing the most value.
Hmm.
And yeah, and it's very funny. There are no mistakes. You and I are connected. I absolutely love and adore you. And the fact that you started with that, it was like, oh my God, we really are the same person.
Yeah, so me and Kendra kind of have this running. It's a joke, but it's not really because it's real life. Um, we're like mirrors of each other. So to me, it's like Kendra is where I'm going. Like she is who I'm
Mm-hmm.
becoming. And then on the other side of it, it's kind of like I am where she was. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
there's this mirror of journeys that connect us. And it's also why she's one of my favorite people. But it's beautiful. And I say this to say that I know in a lot of the conversations that I have, sometimes, spiritual paths can be very lonely, especially in the beginning, because, in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, we are kind of forced to isolate because in order to unlearn so many years and years of programming and patterns and ancestral trauma and our own trauma and all of these freaking things that we inherit by just deciding to come into a human body. It's literally like we chose to roll the dice and play the game. So here's all this beautiful ancestral inheritance for you, but it's not all beautiful. Some of it is really shitty. And it's like, oh, okay. You know, you have to be in solitude to do a lot of these things because you have to go inward. And for a lot of us, we can't go inward with the communities that we have currently because those communities are used to having 24/7 access to us.
Mm.
And with that 24/7 access, that energy always remains and there's no time to go inward. So we're kind of forced to be by ourselves and to reflect a bit. And it's lonely in the beginning, but when you continue to make those connections, especially with your ancestors, you start to feel less alone and more comforted actually by their presence as opposed to others. I got to a point where I was just like, nah, I'm good. I want to be with spirits. I don't want to talk to people. But, you know, then it gets to a point where you start to be comfortable in your own energy and you really start to resonate with yourself and you start on that path of like mastery of self. And then your community starts to come because now you start attracting beautiful mirrors of you. And for me, Kendra, you were probably one of like the first, I want to say, three beautiful mirrors that I've actually
Mm.
gained and had in my life. And it's just like this beautiful space. So I say this to say, guys, I promise you, community comes at some point. It's just patience,
Mm-hmm.
on spiritual paths, patience is necessary because there is no quick fix ever, ever, ever,
No,
ever. Because if there was a
ever.
quick fix, we'd all be healed.
Right. And I want to speak to that a little bit. Like, first of all, one of the things you talked about, like solitude and being alone and being lonely, those can exist in different buckets, right? They don't have to be tethered to one another. And what I learned on this path is that, and I say this all the time to people, unconditional love and unconditional access are different. They are different. And I will love you no matter what. I that's one of the gifts that I have in this lifetime. It's one that I've wrestled with in the past. Love and like are different, right? But unconditional love, I'm gonna love you no
Yeah.
matter what.
Kindness and
But
niceness is different too.
oh, girl, don't even get me started. People say you're the nicest person. I'm like, I am
No,
not.
no, I
I
am
am
kind.
not.
There's a
Yes,
difference.
there's a huge difference, and I have worked for a long time to dismantle the idea that I'm a nice girl. There's
Me
a
too.
subservience to nice that I am not, nor do I desire to be.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, that resonates with me. And as far as, the path, like it definitely, so I believe that we are always in the process of, especially when we're doing spiritual work, whatever container we're in, if you're using plant allies, if you're using breath work, if you're, whatever you're doing, I think we are in a constant flow. I know I am in a constant flow of disintegration, letting go of that which is no longer serving me, and integration. Right.
Yeah.
And so it becomes like at first for me, it's just like this weird, like it's not a beautiful what is that? The eight, the figure eight,
Yeah.
right? The
It's
infinity sign, right?
waves. It's
Right. It's
radiance.
not a beautiful. So for me in the beginning, it's almost like a square. It's like because I'm have all these edges around where I'm like, oh, but I've been in communion with them, and so therefore I still need to be in communion with them.
Yeah.
But
That lovely
meanwhile,
box we stuff ourselves in.
yes, absolutely. And then as far as like healing is concerned, I was having this conversation recently. I don't remember with whom. It doesn't necessarily matter. But when I treat, I'll say, I'm going to take this on for myself. When I treat healing, the word healing as a verb, something that I'm doing, right? Like always doing it. It, so I'm going to use inner child as
Mhm.
my example. If I'm always using healing as a verb, something I have to do, if I'm always going in to heal, verb, my wounded inner child, in order to be successful on that journey, that wounded inner child needs to be alive, right?
Yeah.
So the duality of that and the irony of that is I don't have to always be healing as a verb, right? Because then I'm also keeping that wound alive
Yeah.
in order to validate myself in human form to say, oh, I did that. Because if I go in and she ain't in there, right? And I come out, then I've set myself up for failure.
Yeah.
So instead, I create good energy boundaries with myself and all the parts of myself. And I work to allow, or I open myself to allow that which wants to be seen, heard, comforted, nurtured, whatever, to show itself to me so that I'm not always searching for something. Because we talk about the work, right? And I think there's boundaries between, physical form and energy form,
Yeah.
but that includes self, right? And so if I'm always treating myself as a project or something that I have to work on or something I have to do, it leaves very little room in my life to experience the joy of what it is of the garden that I've been tilling and weeding out and growing. Sometimes I just want to sit back and look at my beautiful ass garden.
Yeah. I mean, if you can't admire it, then what's the purpose?
Girl, I'm saying, you
Um,
know.
that also makes me think on the other side of that too, on this path, we do a lot of healing.
Mhm.
A lot of healing. We do a lot of living, we do a lot of experiencing, we do a lot of really understanding self. I know for me, when I first started, somebody had asked me like, what brings you joy? And I was like, well, shit, I don't know. What does
Mm.
bring me joy? What do I enjoy doing? Do I have any hobbies? Because at this point, I don't think I was doing
Mm.
anything but raising my kids and working. Then
Mhm.
I started to realize, as you continue and as you continue to grow, in order for us to nurture this beautiful inner child that we have, because our inner child is the magic, basically. To me, it's like our inner child is like the magical unicorn and beautiful being that creates all of the wonderful things and actually has you be present in joy.
Mhm.
You're also going to experience a lot of deaths.
Mm.
And I
Oh,
know for
girl.
me, for the eclipse at that time, for like the 2 weeks before that, we had ceremony. I came out of it. I was great for like a week and a half. And then all of a sudden, it was like I was thrown into the darkest of the darkness that I had ever freaking experienced. And I was like, whoa, what did I do wrong? I was like, I was just great. And now I'm not.
Mm.
And then after I kept sitting with it and I was like, no, something's coming up. Something is being shown to me and I'm not paying attention. Let me sit with myself. I did
Mm.
that. I sat. The conclusion that I came to was okay. I'm asking for all of these things to change, but when I'm being put in situations to change them, I am continuously making the same decisions with the awareness that I have that this is a pattern. So
Mm.
I am being asked to make conscious decisions if I want to leave this pattern behind. So I said, you know what? I need to die. It's about time. This version of me that I am right now cannot continue with me and I have to leave her on this path and I will honor her and she will forever be a part of me, but she cannot be the one who is in the driver's seat anymore. So for the
Right.
eclipse, I went to the cemetery. I went to visit my mom. I sat with my mom. I laid on the ground. I went to meditate and I said, listen, universe, I am leaving this version of myself here to die. I am leaving it with
Mm.
my mother and my grandmother, with two people that she loves very deeply that I know will take care of her and bring her joy. I leave her here, and when I leave here, I choose the path of conscious decisions, but I know that the anger and frustration that she has felt with all of the trauma that she has experienced, we can no longer allow that to be the reason why we make decisions and the basis of where we are making decisions from. Because I'm very much like you. I'm a heart space person. I'm
Oh
very
yeah.
heart led. I love everyone. Like,
Yeah.
if you are in ceremony with me, I will hug you, I will kiss you, I will tell you how amazing you are and all of the beautiful things about you. That is who I am. But with that version of me that was still hurting and holding on to the past, I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
able to fully step into this current version of myself. And I say this to say that, a lot of times we'll start feeling and like weird and like not like ourselves, and then like those thoughts, those dark thoughts will come in. And what it usually means is it's
Mm.
not that you want to kill yourself, it's that you need to set the stage and give yourself your own ceremony to release
Yes,
that version of yourself in order to step into the person that you're becoming.
absolutely. And you just said, you talk about death, right? And so I teach yoga amongst the other things that
All
I
of the
do.
beautiful things.
Yes, amongst the beautiful things that I am so blessed to be able to offer to the collective in this lifetime. I'm super grateful for it. But in yoga, there's shavasana,
Hmm.
right? Corpse pose. And I remember even in yoga teacher training, how the instructors were telling us like, oh, well, you can call it tranquility posture, you can call it bliss posture, you call it rest posture, but I'm like, why? I death is on our path. The one, I mean,
Yeah.
we probably have more than one thing in common, just as a collective.
Yeah.
But definitely one of the things that we have in common is that if we come into human form, we will die to human form.
Yeah.
I don't believe I think death is an illusion, but it's also an experience, right? But that's a whole
Yeah.
nother rabbit hole. But we're going
That-
to experience this thing
yeah.
together. So let's talk about it. Let's normalize it. When I look back at the woman, the young girl, and then the young woman, and then the young adult, and then the adult woman, and now I'm in my crone stage, where and I feel amazing, but it's because I've embraced this idea of dying to the forms that are no longer serving me, and not dying, not allowing them to die and then throwing them in my backpack of life,
Mhm.
because then I'm just carrying them around, you
Yeah.
know.
And it
And I
gets
really
heavy.
believe, yeah, it gets heavy. And I really believe, I believe this to the core of my being, that the energies that I'm carrying around that are not serving my current form or serving my path or my purpose also want to be set free.
Yeah.
They're stuffed in that backpack going, really? Is this really, this is best we got? I'm stuffed in a fucking backpack and I gotta,
Yeah. I could be out
really?
here experiencing life too. What's up? Like, let me be
Right.
free.
Like, let me go, let the shit of me, right, fertilize the earth, because shit makes things grow.
Yeah.
Once I made that shift, and that shift came through a whole lot of inner work, but also outer being.
Yeah.
You know, people we talk about, I know in the healing we'll say container, we talk about a lot about the do, right? Like, do the work, do the work, do the work.
But nobody ever
And
tells you,
also,
what is the work? What do you
yeah, let
need?
it,
What am I
yeah,
doing?
let it be, let it be, let it be. And a lot of people will come to me and they'll say, well, what do I do for integration? I'm like, don't really know, because I don't know what your experience is. So let's talk about your experience and let's pick the low hanging fruit,
Hmm.
right? Because there's usually patterns in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's the
And then we
onion.
create, right, exactly. And then we create an integration, which is just in my book, it is how we life.
Yeah.
Integration is really how we life. It's disintegration and integration, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
And so let's relearn how to life. And I think societally too, we've been given this idea that, oh, if I just check these four boxes, do this, check, 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 we're used to things happening to us, right?
Yeah.
You
One
know,
after another. That's that
one
monochronic
after another.
time. Yeah,
Right.
monochronic time. Things happen one after another, not
Yeah,
consecutively. We got to get back to that
exactly.
polychronic time.
Exactly, exactly. And when I work with people, when I work with myself, I remind myself when I'm claiming something for my this lifetime that I'm in, I also claim it for all timelines. And I say known and unknown, seen and unseen, forgotten and remembered. I want it all. I want
Yeah.
all of this to bleed out, quite frankly,
Yeah.
into the other pieces and parts of myself, ones that I've remembered and ones that I'm still in the process of remembering.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. That's why when you
yeah,
you elevate your ancestors known and unknown. You go for everybody because they
yeah,
all need healing. And even if when you do ancestral work in the beginning, you're gonna feel resistance because there are some ancestors that lived lifetimes that were full of persecution and shit was crazy. So now
yeah.
that you're doing this work, of course there's going to be resistance, but you still continue to elevate them. You still continue to show them love because eventually it's going to get to a point one day where you're in the middle of this elevation. All of a sudden you're overcome with emotions. You're crying hysterical. And you know what? Those tears that you're crying are the tears of an ancestor who wasn't able to cry. And you are bringing healing to them and bringing that beautiful peace. And to me, it's like, that's so powerful.
So powerful. You just reminded me of what I refer to absolutely as the single most challenging grandmother ceremony that I have ever sat through. The only way I can accurately in human words, because what happens in those spaces for me many times is well beyond the confines of human language,
Yeah. Yeah, I
but
agree.
is that I resisted, and then I finally laid back. I mean, and I literally like put my feet up as though I were in stirrups, like I was at the GYN's office, and I gave birth to those tears. And
Yeah.
I was like, where is this coming from? And I could hear as clear as we're talking right now, spirit being like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, just allow,
Be
allow.
that channel. Be that
Yeah. And
vessel.
oh girl, I mean, I cry like guttural, like the noise. I can't even imitate the noise that was made.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I knew I was doing that for something bigger than myself,
Yeah.
you know. And it's just what a magnificent gift.
Yeah.
What a magnificent gift. And also to say it's like easy and butterflies, and if I were to tell you I laid back and rainbows were shooting out of my butt and I could see butter, no, I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, when is this going to stop?
Yeah, it's quite the opposite. It's all of the fucking darkness and sludge and all of that shit that's coming out of your butt, actually, instead.
Right. But then, when I chose, I was able to then fill up those spaces
Yeah.
with the light that is already in me.
Yeah.
It's just been tucked away here, there, and another place. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, we talk about healing and we talk about what we bring to the collective. And I just keep getting shown that this is what I said yes to,
Hmm.
right?
That's the
And that,
reminder I get all the time.
girl, this is what I said yes to. And when I start to veer off track, my ancestors will put their boot on my neck.
Yeah, me too. I've
you know
noticed that whenever like I start fucking up slightly, all of a sudden
Mhm.
it's like smack, darkness, find the
Yeah,
pattern. And I'm like, well, shit, okay. Clearly, I fucked up
mhm.
somewhere. So let me
Right.
sit with myself and ask them, hey, what happened? Like, where did I go
Right.
wrong? Where did I turn
Yeah.
left when I was supposed to go right? And they're like, it doesn't matter if you turn left. You were supposed to turn left because now you
Right.
need to understand why you have to go right and really allow it to resonate with you. And I'm like, oh, okay. For those of you that don't know, grandmother is plant medicine, grandmother ayahuasca. I had a similar experience actually with grandfather medicine, grandfather peyote, where you were actually there with me in that
Mhm.
ceremony. The way that I cried and the grief that I released, and I'm actually blessed to remember a lot of my past lives. the way that I cried and the way that I released and the way that I could just feel it coming from the pit of my chest was so painful, and it
Mm,
hurt so much, and I was overcome with emotion, but I knew that it needed to be done.
mhm,
And in doing that, it was like I could see where I had unlocked healing in so many generations of my family. And even with the current version of family that I have now, I could see some of the changes within them and some of the shifting within them, and the beauty of this work is, we are what one of my mentors calls ancestral jewels. We are the ones who decided
mm,
to step up and basically to feel what so many generations kind of tucked away inside. And in doing so, just imagine what the future generations of your family are going to be like and the things that they don't have to
mm.
carry, and to me, it's like if I can do that and I can be that blessing, then I'll say hell yeah 1,000 times again. And like I
Yeah.
know that I've chose this path many, many times because in every past life that I see, I'm always a medicine person. And even
Yes.
now, it's like I couldn't imagine being anyone else because that to me is like the part that resonates the deepest, because when you are a medicine person, you're not going around and healing people because you can't heal anybody. But
Nope.
your spirit and your being and your energy is this beautiful medicine that allows you to channel energy where people are actually able to go within themselves and find their medicine. And to me, it's like there is no greater way of being of service for me. Like I can't imagine it being any other way.
It's so gorgeous. And we talk about, ancestors, and what was coming through for me in this moment as you were sharing is that, well, one, in this form, Kendra Valentine, in this form, in with my energy in this lifetime, I will be an ancestor,
Yeah.
right? But also, if I believe, and I do, that, well, actually, I'm going to switch that narrative. If I know, because my knowing is that
Mm-hmm.
I've been here before,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm already an ancestor.
Ancestor reborn.
I'm an ancestor in this form,
Yeah.
right? And so for me, once I made that shift in my head, it informs how I show up,
Yeah.
right? It informs what I refer to as my energy hygiene. It informs my rituals. I don't like the word routine. You say, "What's your routine?" I want to throw up in my own mouth. For
Yeah.
some people that works, right? For me, it's ritual. And it's totally okay for it to be ritual. Ceremony of life, right? So my energy hygiene and my knowing is come to a place where I have good boundaries. I used to think that boundaries were walls, right? And
Yeah.
those are also different.
Yeah.
So for me, the beginning of this path was is really breaking down these walls that I believed, because for me, when I believe something, it means there's still a layer of fear there. It hasn't dropped into the place of knowing, right?
Yeah.
I believed that I needed those walls in order to stay safe. What I now know is that this container I'm already safe,
Yeah.
and I get to create boundaries that have, I have my sacred no. And also, without the wall, I can see more, I can appreciate more, I can bring in and just be with all of it. And I'm so grateful for this path. And I've been on a healing path most of my life. I came
Too.
into this human form, I really don't love I'm learning how to love, but I really am not a big fan of what I refer to as woke culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
This whole like I'm woke, you're not, this whole measuring
To me,
stick.
there's
I'm just,
like lots of toxicity within that. I'm better than you,
oh,
lots of judgment. And to me, it's
for
like
sure.
if it's not based in unconditional love and me just loving and accepting you the way that you are, because I am no better than you. I am just a different version of you, a different mirror of
Right.
you.
Mm-hmm.
then it doesn't resonate with me, because to me it's like we've all chosen these journeys, and who am I to say that the journey that you've chosen is wrong or different? I
Right.
honor your journey, I honor your decisions, and I let you be on your path, but I know enough to know that if your path is not aligned with mine, then I am able to set that boundary, and we don't have to continue to walk together, but I can still love the shit out of you every single day.
Absolutely. And that's exactly my point, is that we create these walls up sometimes. And I know I've been guilty of this,
Me
you
too.
know. Um and it's not even like guilty is even another, like, it's just that is an alignment that I've, or a misalignment for myself that I've been in, because it's not, I'm not trying to be punitive, I know when I know,
Yeah.
you know. Um oh, good Lord, my dog is in the room with me, and whew, sorry, I just got,
It's so good. You got a whiff.
he let me know that he's also very much alive. So sorry I got derailed there for a second. I almost got gassed out. It's
Oh,
terrible.
we love the animals. We can all relate.
Absolutely. Oh my God, my animals are amazing. But I say all that to say, like, the culture of I'm woke, so therefore I'm the guru of you.
Mhm.
You should, I don't should on people. Um,
Yeah.
you
For
have to,
I invite
yeah,
you to.
invite, you know, and I share. I
Mhm.
share all of myself. I can be a very messy human, like when something has to shift for me,
Mhm.
right? It's generally not a super graceful shift. It's usually like,
Yeah.
"Meh,"
But show me someone who does shift gracefully.
right. But
We're
I share it.
human.
Exactly. Because for me, if I don't share it, then I'm calling in that which what I'm putting out, right? And
Yeah.
if I'm not being authentic, then I'm not calling in those who are aligned with me,
Yeah.
and it's I'm gonna love you no matter what. If you're on this path over here, I'm still gonna love you, and I'm still going to share myself with you, but there's not unconditional access, because even though I have extremely good, I'm 52 years old, I have extremely good energy boundaries at this point. When I work with people and they're like, I don't want you to take on, my energy, I'm not going to.
Mhm.
Like, I am not going to. However, it does put me in a place of having to manage my vibration more than
Okay.
I want to manage it if I'm in an orbit that I know is malaligned,
Mhm.
and I then take on, temporarily some of that energy. It becomes this energy output that I don't wish to do at this time in my life. And
Yeah.
so, and sometimes to love unconditionally, and it's always self first, it requires me to come out back into my own orbit and love you from back here,
And that's
right?
okay.
And yeah, I mean, it's been a long but beautiful, but it's been long and short at the same time,
Yeah.
journey to this place, right? Where I can I can stand in my sacred no to inform where my sacred yes is. And what I mean by that is, when my sacred no is not rooted, when I'm not clear about my sacred no, then it moves all over the place. So for me, I have to get clear with what my no is. So
Mhm.
then I can, when somebody comes and says, "Hey, will you do this?" If that crosses that sacred no, then it's a no, right? If it doesn't cross that sacred no, because the sacred no is solid, then I can look outward and say, "Yes, I'm willing to do that." And that for me has been, oh girl, the amount of road
Yeah.
rash I've gotten to get to this place.
Yeah.
You couldn't drag me back to that place. You
And
couldn't. No.
absolutely. And I can relate to that, because now I'm in the place of just transitioning to that leadership role and doing more of the
Mm,
energy work and learning more of the basis of it. And I'm in the place where I'm beginning to learn to work with people and not take on that energy. But I
Mm-hmm.
have to say that like the first few times that I did that, I was working with people who weren't aligned with me, and I knew they weren't aligned because they were in a space of, well, all of these people did all of these things to me and I want them to pay. And I was like, well, listen,
Mm.
I am not the person for you to work with then, because I believe in forgiveness. I believe in unconditional love. I believe in honoring journeys. And while I understand that you want them to pay, but putting them in situations or getting your revenge on them is creating the same energy that they gave to you, therefore making you be in that energy, giving away your power, not taking accountability, because now you feel that, oh, well, this person hurt me, so I'm going to hurt everybody.
Right.
There's no separation of the two. And to
Right.
me, it's like, okay, this person did this to me. Was it fucked up? Absolutely. But am I going to allow these situations to dictate the rest of my life? Absolutely not. And it
Mm-hmm.
would be where I would consistently get asked of how to do like different energy work and rituals on how to like send energy back to people and do all of these things. And don't get me wrong, I know how to do these things because I've been on this path for a very long time, and I was
Yeah.
practicing Wiccan for a very long time. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
very versed in the work, but I will never teach you to do any of that because that energy does not resonate with me. So I will not put that energy out. But I
Mm.
still insisted on attempting to work with them. And then what ended up happening for me was kind of like I would get thrown back into that darkness. And it's like that question of, well, why do you feel the need to work with them if you know that the energy is not aligned? And if you
Right.
know that they are not in a space to take accountability and find their own medicine, why are you trying to heal them when you know that's not possible? And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, you're right. And then but even still, with going through that darkness, on one perspective of it, it could have been very deterring. Well, I'm not going to do this work if that's going to happen every time, blah, 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 blah. And it could have spiraled one way. But for
Yeah.
me, it was like, oh, energetic boundaries. I also have to set the intention of the kind of person, the vibration that I want to work
Mm-hmm.
with in order to maintain my vibration with ease and not like I don't have to work with a lower vibration. I can make the decision to work with people only who are ready to take their self, like to take accountability for themselves and to be
Absolutely.
determined and consistent. But like you said, I didn't realize that before. And had that situation not happened, I probably would have never realized.
Absolutely. And I'll take it for me. I want to address, like lower vibration, higher vibration. I have moved past the need
Hmm.
to even measure that.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you're on a way higher vibration than I am. I'm not going to measure your vibration.
Yeah.
I'm just going to look at the alignment. If we are not aligned, and I ask, questions. If somebody wants to work with me, I ask them specific questions. And if there's not an alignment there, then for me, that if I were to work with that person, if I were to say, knowingly, I know there's not an alignment here, but I'm going to work with them anyway, then I got to look at my intention.
Yeah.
Why am I going to work with them? One, do I need a lesson from that misalignment that I know exists? Or do I want their money? What is it that is making my no a yes?
Yeah.
And when people have come to me, and because as somebody who works in an energy plane, you can imagine, people like, oh, can you cure blah blah blah, fill in the blank.
Mhm.
I've been struggling with urinary tract infections. Can you cure me of this? Can you heal me? Nope. I can, however, create a container that is dope as fuck and expansive, where you can float, bringing your whole self, and you can do that work. And I assure you, I am a skilled co-captain, but you are the captain of your ship. And my belief, my knowing is that it is your journey to be on. And as a skilled co-captain, it's not like you're flying solo. Absolutely not. You
Mhm.
know, in communion with somebody, when I understand that, what the goals are, what the desire is, then that can inform my decisions as the co-pilot to say, hey, based on what we talked about, it looks like we might be heading toward an iceberg. Maybe we want to shift, you
Yeah.
know, but again, I'm not going to grab the wheel from someone. Now, that said, if somebody, if I'm in a ceremonial space, or if and for me, ceremonial spaces, it can be sound healing, it can be energy healing, it could be plant ally healing, whatever that is, right? I'm not going to let you spin out. If we get too close to, oh my God, I just saw, did you just see the thumbs up?
I did. That means you're speaking truth. That's a thumbs up
Yeah,
from spirit.
Spirit. I love that. You know, oh my God, I love how my ancestors just be knocking down the door, or our ancestors, right? Just be knocking down the door like, yeah, she's speaking truth right now. I let them know, like, I'm not going to let us crash and burn. That's an irresponsible co-pilot as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just going to let things happen to us, but I'm going to be in the fullness of my knowing that you are remarkably powerful,
Yeah.
remarkably powerful. And this is what I'll say, my public service announcement for all of this, for anyone listening to this, is if you ever go to someone, this is my belief and my knowing, is that if you ever go to someone and they're like, you need me, and this is happening to you, and without me you're not going to get anywhere, just
Run away.
do yourself a favor and run far, far away, and sit with self and ask your own ancestors, like, hey, help guide me in the right direction. um because for every, we'll say, ailment, whether it's an energetic ailment, a physical ailment, a spiritual ailment, for every ailment there's someone out there who's willing to tell you that you're less than, um and that you can be just as good as, if only you work with, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't I don't believe that narrative. I think we are all infinite, eternal, and whole. And we are at varying degrees of remembering, right? I do believe that it is useful and beneficial to discern someone's level of skill,
Yeah.
right? How long they've been doing what they're doing. And that doesn't mean just in this lifetime, right? But what is their level of skill? I mean, if I'm going to a surgeon, I want, and it's a surgery that is, very impactful, I want to know that I'm going to somebody with a certain level of skill. So it's not to say that that doesn't have value, because it does. But once I start to hear somebody saying, well, I'm here, so you're there, those aren't my people,
Yeah.
because I see you as whole.
Yeah.
And that tripped me up a few times in my life. I'll be honest,
Yeah.
the whole falling in love with someone's potential,
Oh,
right?
I used to live there. Oh,
Girl.
Jesus. We have
Girl.
spoke about that before, guys. Ooh.
Yeah.
I
And
feel
so,
that.
we're all powerful beings. And the fact is that if I remain curious, grounded in my own truth for sure, but if I
Yeah.
remain curious about somebody else's path without attachment to whether they're making that left or right, right?
Yeah.
And I follow alongside them, knowing that I am already safe and I'm being blessed to have we'll say, a bird's eye view
Yeah.
of somebody else's journey, then I get to experience things that I wouldn't necessarily have been able to experience. And to watch someone birth themselves.
Ooh, so
Ooh,
beautiful.
girl.
My goodness. It's
I
probably
get,
my favorite thing.
girl,
Like, oh, I love it. I
I
do.
have goosebumps all the way down
Me
my legs.
too. I definitely felt the goosebumps. And I also want to say thank you, for that
Yeah.
beautiful perspective shift. And, that is one of the examples of why it is so beautiful to have community and to have, elders that you can speak to who have been on the path longer than you, because while we obtain all of this wisdom, there's so much wisdom to be brought from our elders and the experience of life and all of the beautiful things that they have done, that sometimes, in all of this, know that you know nothing because there's so much to know. But you can
Yes.
have this perspective of something and get into a conversation with somebody, and when you're open, the amount of wisdom that you're able to receive is just beautiful, you know.
Hmm.
And I'm so appreciative of all of you, especially you and Little Owl, and these beautiful conversations
Mm.
that we do have. Because even in places where it's like I speak and I'm unsure, there's never any judgment. There's only that sharing of experience and wisdom. And in that, it's able to resonate in such a deeper way, as opposed to somebody being like, oh, well, you're thinking of it wrong, or that's not what it is. And instead, it's like, well, you know, I understand where you're going, but in my experience and in my journey, this is how I go about this. And in that, it's like, oh, you know what? That makes sense. Like that resonates
Right.
with me. Or it may not, and that's okay too.
Exactly. Thank you for taking that thought right out of my own head, because, and when it doesn't, as the person offering up the experience and the wisdom, when I do that without attachment to, again, if the person's going to go left or right, if it's going to resonate or not, then it becomes a free flowing of sharing.
Yeah.
There's no expectation around it where I say, oh, I expect that you are going to do X because I said Y. No, I'm going to share myself. I'm going to, and not for nothing, if you then make a left and you come to this epiphany like moment, I might look to the left and go, well, shit, maybe I should
Yeah, I
go
should go a
left.
little bit left. Yep.
Okay. Hey.
Yeah.
If we are all teachers, if we are all mirrors, then we are
Mhm.
all teachers and students at the same time.
Yeah. And we're forever students, forever
I know.
students. Because
Listen, when you're,
in the amount of knowledge that there is to know, and if you've ever accessed your Akashic records and seen that library, you know
mm,
that the amount of wisdom is infinite. And like Eddie says, my beautiful grandfather energy, Eddie Medicine Whispers, any path that you're on, the path, even if you go right, the path is the path to the path. So no
yeah,
matter where
right.
you are, it's the path to the path. You're going to get to your path, and everything is divine timing. So even if you feel like you made a mistake, there was something in that so-called mistake that was there for you to gain experience and wisdom from. And now
Mhm.
that is this beautiful tool that you have in your backpack that is lightweight, and you don't feel the weight of it, and you keep going. And then the situation comes up again and you're like, ha, I I know this situation. And last time I did this, I ain't doing that shit again. I'm going this way because I know this way was the way I wanted to go last time. And
Yep.
then you are on the other side, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. And when I, for me, I think this feels like I just want to wrap my part of it up with this, is that when I look at alignment, right? For me, it's makes it much more clear.
Hmm.
It's not, am I doing something right or am I doing something wrong? There's a punitive nature to that, right?
Yeah.
When I look at who is it that I am becoming, who is it that I want to be, right?
Yeah.
And then
What
I look
ancestor
at,
do you want to become?
exactly, and I look down the path that I'm on, and I ask myself a very simple question: is this in alignment with who I want to be? And if the answer is no, there's no reason to beat myself up over it.
Hmm.
I can go, oh, bet, all right, path, thanks for the lessons, thanks for the awareness, and then I can shift. And when I shift, I find that the shifts that I make that are the most lasting are the ones that are not going to capsize my ship.
Yeah.
I make little shifts because little bit counts. Little bit is cumulative. Little bit is within reach, and done consistently, it builds a foundation under my feet
Yeah.
that is becomes impenetrable to the fear of, that comes up for me sometimes. Now there are parts of my foundation that are still very penetrable, and that's okay, right?
Yeah.
But there are parts of my foundation that I'm like, this is my knowing. This is my knowing. And if I just continue to look at alignment, oh, it's so freeing. It's so
Yeah.
freeing. No measuring stick necessary, no fill backpack necessary. I can just, it's a very, this isn't an alignment for me. And I'm okay
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. Trust what you feel. You know,
Yeah.
your intuition tells you so much. And if you're about to do something, and there's a difference between feeling a little bit of fear when you're going to do something and feeling that sacred no in the pit of your stomach, and somebody's asking you to do something and you feel it and you just feel sick and it feels heavy and you don't feel good, that would be a key indicator that that is probably a sacred no, and that you should
Right.
hold yourself to that.
Yep.
So with
Yeah.
that, I just want to thank you so much, Kendra, for your
I
beautiful
love you.
light and all of the love that you share. To all of you, I love you so much. Continue to be kind to yourself. Continue to show yourself grace. Celebrate all of the little shifts, all of the little victories that you have. You know, life is a ceremony and it is about you. And you have to celebrate yourself in the same way that you would celebrate others, and show up for your blessings and your hardships and your darkness and your light with equal amount of energy, because it's all here to be experienced and part of the process and will bring wisdom. And as always, if there is ever a moment where you feel lost, remember that you can look up to the stars and your ancestors will always guide you home. With love, peace.
Ari Kamabu. Thank you for listening to this episode. We look forward to continuing to find our way back to indigeneity with all of you. May your heart continue to be your guide. And remember that whenever you feel lost, you can look to the stars, and your ancestors will help you find your way back home.